Some fire and rain from James Taylor this morning on DCFM 88.9. Well, he's very late because he was held up by planes and all sorts of things this morning, but we're right to rock and roll right now, so we'll play the normal introduction. Here we go.
On what's hot and what's not in the world of technology with Mathew Dickerson on Tech Talk. Here on DCFM 88.
Morning, Matthew. How are you?
Yeah, good morning.
Why don't we just find the right microphone here? I'm still going to drive this thing. Yeah.
Good morning, and it's good to see you back in the chair. We had Clinton the last couple of weeks.
Yes, because Andrew was away and I was looking after breakfast.
Excellent.
Yes, and
Bit nicer getting up a little bit later.
oh, it was yes. Not a happy camper when it comes to doing breakfast, I can assure you. Matthew, look, we've got, I don't know where to start with you today. Always good stuff, but this one just blows me away completely. What if your sweat could instantly tell you how healthy you are? Well, explain.
It is interesting because I remember years ago talking to someone in the technology industry when you used to have to put a chest band on to see what your heart rate was. And I said, it's such a pain for people doing that. Gee, it'd be good if you could have something on your wrist that could just do that like your watch. And this particular person said to me, that'll never happen. The technology will never get to the point where a chest band is not needed to check your heart rate. And of course now there are probably 10 different devices on the market that do your heart rate from your wrist. Now, going the next step, what else can we determine about the human body in terms of how healthy it is or critical aspects of it that might be about to occur? And sweat is a really important thing because sweat has so many things in it that can actually tell you about what's happening in your body, either overall health or in the short term. And so there's a group of researchers now at Iowa State University that are actually looking at the sweat and how they can analyse that. And at the moment, they've actually got a prototype made. Unfortunately, the prototype at the moment needs a piece that you have to replace. So there's an actual strip that you put in the watch and you have to take that out and replace that. Now, that's a prototype. I imagine it will get to the point where it will be able to analyse your sweat without needing to put that replaceable component in. And by analysing your sweat, again, all that long-term health aspect can be looked at, but also in the short term. And they're actually developing it at the moment for research in the military. So if you've got people out there in the field carrying around their huge backpacks, all that weight they're carrying, and they're getting to the point where they're very stressed, maybe to the point where they may have an issue, a heart failure or a major issue with their body, they want to know about it so they can pull those people out of the field. But again, things that get developed for the military often end up in the real world.
Indeed.
And so there may be some development there where we end up with our watch, not just doing our heart rate, not just looking at some basic features of what we're doing in terms of our movement and our exercise, but actually analysing and give us a really good snapshot of our health.
I had a horror situation where I thought, oh dear, maybe we're going to put it under our armpit or something. Terrible. Now, air pollution is bad enough, and Dyson have got an air purifier at the moment, and they've been selling very well in Canberra. Funny about that. But apparently they're doing it with these things, headphones.
Well, there's a patent that they've just applied for, which actually is a patent for an air purifier in your headphones. And it's not the most logical thing. An air purifier you would normally think to be around your mouth, a mask or some description. But Dyson realised that it's pretty unpleasant walking around with a mask on. Hard to have a conversation while you're walking down the street with a mask on.
Funny about that, yeah.
That's right. But they are an innovative company, and so they've worked on a concept where they've got fans inside the headphones. They spin at 12,000 revolutions per minute, and basically what they do is they filter the air that goes through there and then blow that air out across the front of your face so that you're getting clean air in front of your face while you're walking along. So, brilliant idea. It's not available to purchase yet. Again, it's just at the patent stage, but I can see that there'll be a need as we go further and further and our pollution's getting worse before it one day hopefully gets better. There'll be a need for these sort of devices. So people walking down the street with their headphones on, you might think they're just listening to music, but they might be wanting to breathe clean air as well.
Clean air as well. It's like those hand dryer things that Dyson have got at the moment. They blow air everywhere.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you get two people walking together with their headphones on, blowing air across their mouth. Well, you get cross-contamination.
Well, the idea is that it's filtered. So as it goes through the headphones,
right.
it filters it. So if it did get some cross-contamination, it should be okay because it's already been filtered by the headphones.
All right. I want one. You just with the sort of microphone I'm wearing at the moment, as you can see, you can imagine air blowing across that. You go every time you talk.
You'd have a constant Darth Vader sound, I think.
Yeah. Oh, It'll be like reverb and radio many years ago. Mazda have put a hold on electric cars in Australia. Why?
Yeah, it's disappointing. They've got a new electric vehicle, the MX-30, that's basically been announced, and it's available in some areas across the world. But they don't want to bring it to Australia for a couple of reasons there. They see that our market is very small. Now, we actually tripled our electric car sales last year, but off a very low base. We went from 0.2% to 0.6%, so not a huge part of the Australian market. And so the first part is they said there's not a lot of sales here, so do we want to bring an electric car in when the market's small? And they blame that on a lack of government initiative, a lack of incentives, and a lack of renewable power that people can actually recharge the devices at. So a lot of that comes back to a government that's really not embracing electric vehicles. But from Mazda's point of view, they probably want to wait till the market's a little bit more mature before they waste their time and energy and marketing efforts on bringing it in. And it's a challenging one. It really is a chicken and egg. If they bring it in, it'll be another vehicle in the Australian market that's electric, and that'll add to the Nissan Leaf and the Hyundai Kona and the Teslas, of course, and the Jaguars and a variety of cars that are coming in. So the more choice we've got, the better the pricing is, the more people will buy those cars. But if they don't bring in those cars because the sales aren't there, then they've got no chance to build up those sales. So it is a bit of a chicken and egg. I'd still prefer to see Mazda bring it in, and I think those other companies that I mentioned, being first to market, they may not be getting great sales, but they're getting some publicity for those companies.
Indeed, and they're getting loyalty to that particular car brand, and that's what
right.
you want.
Yeah.
It's coming up to 25 to 11 DCFM 88.9, and my guest this morning was Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson. Mathew, Apple have been fined. They've been naughty, actually.
They have been
about
naughty.
about their phones, and I'll get you to explain. If you've got an old Apple phone, it's not very good.
Well, the interesting part is when a new Apple phone comes out, people anecdotally used to say, oh, gee, I better get one of those new ones. It feels like my old one's going so slow. And everyone would laugh and say, oh, that's just because you looked at the new one and it looks so much faster. But it was found out that Apple actually were slowing down older phones, and this was found out about December 2017. So we've known for a little while about this. Apple have said there was a good reason for doing it. It was trying to help people get the best out of their battery life by slowing down their phone. It wasn't to increase sales. Now,
Oh, come on.
that's right.
Come on.
You've got to take that with just a touch of salt, a grain of salt,
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
So that was the argument they put forward. So going forward from there, in Europe they've just been fined £5 million, which again for Apple is a drop in the ocean. It'd be like you or I having a fine of a few cents, because for Apple that's about 0.002% of their overall net worth. So it's not much. It's it's still £5 million, so it is a chunk of change. But again, it sends out the message to everyone, not just organisations in the technology industry, but everyone, that you've got to be transparent with your customers. If you're not, then you'll be found out one day, and I'm sure that's cost Apple some loyalty from some of their customers who thought that their phone was just seeming a bit slow, and then suddenly they feel like they've been duped about that.
Yep, indeed. I wonder if Samsung and the others are doing the same thing. Huawei.
Well, I think there was some evidence that some other manufacturers might have been doing something similar, but once Apple was caught, I think they all cleaned up their act very quickly.
Yeah. Let's be good boys. Matt, always good talking to you.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next Wednesday on Tech Talk, probably at the normal time, or are you travelling again?
No, back in Dubbo next Wednesday.
In Dubbo next Wednesday. That's a rarity for you. What, Spain, Portugal, Melbourne? You tell me about Collingwood very quickly.
Yeah, very interesting there. We went to the Collingwood Football Club. I'm not a huge Aussie Rules fan, but it's interesting. Got to hold the 2010 Premiership Trophy there. But just the business behind a football club, 130 staff. We went through a tour through the whole facilities, 130 staff to run the Collingwood Football Club. And that seems like an incredible number of people to run a footy team, but it's big business too. A footy team down there in Melbourne, it's like a religion.
Well, the first thing they say to you in Melbourne is, who do you go for?
That's right.
That's the very first thing you say, oh, I go for
And you've got to be careful how you answer that.
You've got to be good Parramatta. And they say, what? Good talking with you, mate. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Richard.
DCFM 88.9, 20 to 11.